Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Starve the Demon Recovery by Any Means Necessary. I'm your host, Jenna, and I'm so glad that you're here. Tonight, we're continuing our Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book study with Step 5 and the spiritual principle of integrity. Whether you're working the 12 steps, you're not working the 12 steps, you're working another recovery program, or you're just curious about recovery, I hope you'll find something here that helps you today. We're going to begin in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Chapter 6, Into Action. That's on page 72. And then we're going to go to the 12 and 12 and read about Step 5 in there. As always, feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the live chat. If you've got some experience, let's hear it and give others strength and hope. If you're watching the replay, leave me a comment. I do read them and try to answer all of them. And if you're getting value from these studies, I'd appreciate if you'd like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need it. All right, let's jump into Step 5. Oh, you know what? I gotta make sure I can see the chat. Oh, it's Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Gonna make you known and get you a fan club in Walden House Recovery. Woo! Shout out to Walden House Recovery. That's great. All right, so are we ready? Nobody's here yet, but that's okay because I do these lives on Monday night and it's not the best time to do a live, but that's okay because I'm going to leave it up until I get the actual book study cut out of it, and you can find that on the channel in the AA Big Book Study playlist. So let's get started. Okay, we are Into Action, Chapter 6, page 72. So we just did all the way up through Step 4, right? Ooh, Step 4. So if you watch the Step 4 video, you know that so far we have covered honesty, hope, faith, and courage. And you put all those things together and guess what you get? Integrity. So now that we have done our Step 4, if you made it that far, that's amazing. A lot of people don't make it that far. That's okay. There's a lot of healing after Step 4. But so now, oh, hi, Shroom. Happy Monday to you. That's my little brother, y'all. If, I got to make this light dimmer. This is crazy. I feel like I'm blinded by the light here. Y'all tell me if this looks better. Does that look better? I feel like it's better. Yeah, gosh, what a spot. I don't need all that spotlight. Anyway, so a big problem that people have with Step 4 is that once you pull up all that stuff, right? And we talked about it. Whatever's on your Step 4, it can't hurt you. It's already happened. It's already happened. You just have to face it and deal with it. But if all you do is pull it up and you're kind of sitting in it, what are you going to do with it? You're just going to sit in it and wallow in it, all this trauma and drama and chaos that you've brought up from your past? No, we're going to do Step 5. We're going to tell it. We're going to tell our sponsor. Oh, hey, girl, hey. We're going to tell our sponsor. We're going to tell our God. We're going to admit it to ourselves. And that way we're going to keep it pushing, because what you don't want to do is pull it up, wallow in it, and be miserable because, oh my God, all this stuff that I was numbing with drugs and alcohol, now I got to face it sober. What do? This is what you do. You do Step 5. So I'm going to read it as if we're going to do this like I'm talking to a sponsee. I'm going to read the chapter. I'm going to give you my experience. Hopefully that gives you some strength and hope. And of course, I'm going to talk about how this looks in practical application in my own life. And hopefully some of the folks in the chat will give us some of their experience, strength, and hope. If anybody has any questions, jump in. I'm going to do my best to look at the camera, look at the book, look at the chat, and keep it all rolling. So, like I always say, please manage your expectations. I'm starting a girl's 4-step right now. Oh, girl, I hope you use my videos. I really do. I'm also training a new sponsor. Oh, well, I would hope that all your sponsees are being trained to be new sponsors. That reminds me, my sponsor told me, and I've said this to other people since then, but when I was finally working my steps at my last rehab, y'all know me, not my first rehab, that she told me, I'm not worried about you. You're here, you're doing it, you're doing the work. I'm worried about the girl that's out there still waiting for you to get sober so you can sponsor her. And that really stuck with me. You know, that's what we do as sponsors. We take somebody through the book, through the steps, we put their hand in the hand of God's, but ultimately we are hoping that they will carry the message and if possible sponsor other people. And you know, each one teach one kind of thing. So now that's not the only way to carry the message. And when we get to step 12, we're going to talk a lot about that. But if you can sponsor, do sponsor. And train your sponsees to be sponsors, right? Go out and help the next one. And when you're looking for a sponsor, I know I've said this before in other videos. So, you know, this is live. I may edit this out of this video, but I've said it before that your sponsor should have a sponsor and have got through all 12 steps and been told by their sponsor that it's okay for them to sponsor. That's a lot of sponsors in one word. Listen, I have got to go turn this light off because the fan is going. So y'all just bear with me. My dogs aren't even in here to like keep you entertained. 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm back. Did you miss me? Okay, enough about me. Let's get into step 5. And I don't know how to do a moderator thing. My brother's in here, Shroom. He's my younger brother. If I tell you how old we both are, you'll laugh when I say I can't say little brother. But he's gonna try and help me out though. Like if I am too much in the book and in the camera and not enough in the chat, you guys please manage your expectations. Okay. Everybody can see me? Okay, cool. Here we go. So dog hair, y'all. My husky's shedding. It's everywhere. He's molting is what he's doing. So, chapter 6, into action, page 72. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now, these are about to be cast out. Yay! This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. So if you have made it this far, congratulations, you're on step 5. Yay! And remember, there is no chapter called sitting on your ass. There is a chapter called into action. That's on purpose. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. Even though, let me tell you, we're always the last to know. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient because, oh my God, it's so easy to lie to ourselves. We lie to everybody else and think that they're believing our bullshit, which really they stop believing us and just start and us long before we figure out what's wrong with us. But just oh, okay, cool. I'm checking the chat. I see y'all are chatting. Yeah. Shroom's my good. Yeah. Anything you could say to me, you could say to Shroom. He's got my 100% confidence. His name's Chris in real life. I just busted you out, brother. I have so much fun when I do this live. I lose my place. Y'all bear with me. I appreciate your compassion, forgiveness, and all things. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further than that solitary self appraisal. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Vital means necessary for living. And I like how it says we may not overcome drinking. You know, some people don't work the steps and they stay sober without them. Other people work every step, check all the boxes, and go burn their life to the ground. So, you know, I have said to more than one person, if you fearlessly and thoroughly work these steps, you won't relapse. If you don't, you might. That doesn't mean that you will. It means that you might. That's why we say the word may. It's a big may. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep themselves. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. And you know, you can trade alcohol for misery. I want to say this, and this is more talking to the other sponsors out there. When I have a sponsee, before we get to the fourth step, I divulge to them what is the worst, most horrible thing on my fourth step. Now, I'm not going to say it here because y'all aren't my sponsees, and you're not my sponsors, and you're not my higher power. And if it was for you to know, you already would. When I tell my sponsee, listen, this is what I have had to face and overcome, and I did it by working the steps, being honest, letting it out, understanding that it couldn't hurt me anymore because it was in my past, and all those things, invariably, what that does is it gives that person the space to know that I understand and I'm not going to judge them. And rarely is their worst thing worse than my worst thing. So, just a little tip. You know, Jess said I do that too. That's crazy. Of course, you know, because Jess, man, we're like this, girl. I can't wait to get you on my interview. Okay. Y'all, listen, I have got my hair and my face just killing me. There we go. Look, I'm in Florida and it's hot. It's hot. It's muggy. I'm just praying that the Wi-Fi doesn't go out. You understand? So I've got the fan on. I got everything, you know. And listen, this is Jess. Remember I was telling you how I edit? Remember this live because when you see the actual step 5 book video, none of this is going to be in that. I'm going to make it look so much better than this. Hi, I can't see the name there. Oh, I'm looking up here. Monoram 5105. Hi. Welcome to the chat. Thanks everybody for coming in. Please talk amongst yourselves more than anything. 111 degrees here. I'm dying. Listen, I got the overhead fan on, which makes my banner flap. I got this little fan down here on my feet. So, and I got the air conditioner on. It's just, but I got this little ring light on so I can look pretty for you guys. It doesn't get much cuter than this. This is it. But I do my best. I don't want to scare anybody away. Oh, here comes Mango. Y'all, wait till you see. Come here, baby. This is Mango, y'all. Mango. He's my puggle. He's my sidekick. He's my buddy. He hangs out with me while I do this. Of course, he's not going to sit where you can see him on camera, but he's there. And then the other ones will come in and they'll wrestle in the background and you won't see me. You won't even bother looking at me because you'll be all puppified. It's great. Okay, where was I? More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension that makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody. If we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. I'm just going to touch on that for a minute. If you can't trust your sponsor with your fifth step, find a new sponsor. You don't got to tell everything to everybody, but you should have one person you can tell everything to. I don't care if you find a guy at the bus stop that you're never going to see again and just lay it all out. The point is to get it off your chest. Remember we talked about the rocks in the backpack, and everything that's on your fourth step is like a rock in the backpack, and it's weighing you down, and you're filtering everything in your life through that. And every time you tell it, when you sit down with your sponsor and you invite God into that and you tell it, you're taking a rock out of your backpack and you're setting it down so you can walk away from it. And it doesn't have to be a sponsor. You may not be a 12-stepper, but the act of confession, no matter what program you're working or if you're not working a program, you have got to realize that alcohol is not the problem, it's the wrong solution. Okay? So you figure out what the problems are, figure out what you're trying to know and what trauma, drama, and chaos you've got going on in there. You face it, you walk away from it, you move forward in life without dragging it with you. You don't bleed on people that didn't cut you. You don't blame the next guy for what the last guy did. This is how we do that, right? So I get a little riled up. Let me check the chat real quick before I go back to the book. I open mouth kiss to horse once. That's something you didn't hear. Oh, nice. Listen, hey, shh. When I move everything over to Rumble, I'll tell y'all the chicken story. This clean and sober sister is truly a gift from God to learning the steps. Listen and take notes. God bless everyone here working on their recovery. Best wishes to all. Oh, that's super sweet. Thank you for saying that. And yes, that's I don't care what program you're working. Face your stuff. Tell it to somebody. Confession is good for the soul. That's why so many religions kind of require it, right? It's what you do in therapy. It's what you do in church. It's just, get it off your chest. Get rid of it. Get it out. Find somebody you can trust. Don't tell everything to everybody, but find one person you can tell everything to, right? Okay. If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintances for a closed mouth, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Now, we're going to talk a lot about that in step 8 and 9, making amends, and how we don't confess things just to make ourselves feel better to the person that it's going to destroy by hearing the information. Can y'all hear that my back? Can you hear my husband just walked in? Tell me if you can, because I can hear him, and I'm about to yell at him. Good for you, Jess. That's right. Listen, the advice that I give, don't just pick the first person sitting next to you in the room that tells you I'll sponsor you. Okay. It's like interviewing, go out for coffee with them. See how they talk to the waiter. See, if they're living out of their car, which is not, listen, I'm not judging people to live out of their car, but if you haven't got your life together enough to get out from living in the car, maybe you don't tell somebody else what to do with their life. Just a suggestion. Okay, cool. Because he just got home from the gym and came in, and I can hear him. I don't know if y'all can hear him. So, I'm concerned about my background editing later. Anyway, if I get him to come in here and say hi, but he's all sweaty from the gym, so he probably won't. Oh, and that's the other thing I want to talk about. It says unaffected. You want to find somebody that you can tell it to that, that not that they can't repeat your stuff, but that they won't. It has to be somebody you can trust, which is, again, why you need to be interviewing your sponsors. Go out there, see if they're talking shit about other people. See if they're gossiping. See if they're telling you all about somebody that you don't even know, but all of a sudden you know all their business. Because if they talk about them, they will talk about you. So keep that in mind. If your sponsor is not living the life that you want for yourself, find a new sponsor. They're everywhere. They're all over the place, and don't always take just like you would interview a date. You would just go on a date with somebody because they're going to take you out for coffee. Well, let me get your vibe. Let me see what you're about before I just latch on and start telling you my whole life. You have to protect yourself because, look, we're all sick and suffering, right? Those people sitting next to you in that room, they're sick and suffering too. God bless them. I hope everybody gets it. I hope everybody figures it out and solves all their problems and gets to live happy, joyous, and free. Everybody's in different places in their recovery. Not everybody, they might have a lot of time in their recovery, but that doesn't mean they have a lot of recovery in their time. So, you know me, I'm a bumper sticker waiting to happen. Goodbye t-shirt at starvedemon.com. But it's very important. It's very important when you are doing step 5 that you are doing it with somebody that you know you can trust. Okay. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, It may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness, willingness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. Oh, don't we like to procrastinate? When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. It is an honor and a privilege to sponsor somebody. It is. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step with holding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. Our fears fall from us. That's a weird sentence. I don't know how to say it any better. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often the feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel that we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Have we done it fearless and thoroughly up until this point? Is there anything that we have left out? Is there something we need to divulge? Is there some piece to the puzzle that that we're missing? Okay, Jess says the right person is not always the first person that offers either. This is a hard line. Can you pause for a sec? Yeah, what's up? There's like a delay, I think, between what you say and what I say. So I'm going to hit my vape right quick. Where'd you go, Jess? Well, while I'm waiting on Jess, I want to tell you a little bit with me. I will tell you that when I was doing that part of my step 5, where I had wait a second, she's back. So somehow take on the religion side for what the broad highway line. Yes, thank you for reminding me. The broad highway line refers to the way of Christianity. Christ is the way, the truth, and the light. So that particular line, that particular phrase is referring to that. It is well said that Bill Wilson, when writing this, was divinely inspired. And it, started out with the Oxford group with their 6 steps. And then Bill Wilson got together with the first 100 people and wrote the book. But that, when they talks about the broad highway, they're talking about the how do I Jess, help me out here. In the Bible, the broad highway leads to hell. It's narrow steps that lead to heaven. Thank you. See, she said it way better than I was gonna. I was gonna take a way long way around it. So in the Bible, the broad highway leads to hell. It's narrow steps that lead to heaven. The way there's now I've completely forgot how I normally say it, that there's the broad easy path, and then there is the narrow harder path that is worth the trek. All the wide path, that's easy, everybody takes that. And you we have to be on that narrow path. We can't afford. I have his manuscript, by the way. Oh girl, shut the front door. Okay, I'm impressed. I'm duly impressed, y'all. Wait, y'all don't know. Jess is going to come in and she's going to do an interview, and it's going to be awesome. Take the steps, folks. Yes. Listen, the escalator's broke. The elevator's broke. You're going to have to take the stairs. Anyway, so when I did that part, where after, and listen, understand too, that by the time I got to my fifth step, I had already, my sponsor already knew everything, right? I do not believe in, and neither did my sponsor. So, yay. She didn't just tell me, go to your fourth step, and me come hand it to her, and she go, oh no, that's wrong. Do it again. Nah, that drives me nuts. She went through it with me, column by column, as I went through the columns, which check out the step 4 video. I go through the columns and what they mean and why we do them. And so by the time I got to the fifth step and telling it, she'd pretty much heard everything already anyway. So I wasn't like divulging anything that was, brand new or a big secret, So hold on one second. Babe, can you please quiet? Thank you. Love you. So she and I met, we did the fifth step, no big surprises there. And I went back home and I took my book and I read through, just like it says to do. I read through steps 1 through 4, checked to see, did I miss anything? Was there anything that I need to still tell? Is there anything I didn't, I'm telling a half truth, which is a whole lie. And as I sat there doing that, when I tell you, I felt the presence of God. That is when I really, truly started to feel my higher power and know. So when it says that you go from understanding spiritual principles to actually having spiritual experience, that was very true for me. And I think that if you talk to a lot of people, a lot of alcoholics that have worked this program and done the steps fearlessly and thoroughly, you will find that they have had very similar experiences. So I'm interested to know. Chris says, hey, baby. I'm interested to know what your experience is with the fifth step. If you have a similar experience, some people that spiritual experience, it comes real slow and it comes over time. And sometimes we don't recognize it at first. And then when we're looking back, that's when we go, oh, that's what that was. That was God all day, so anyway, so I really, that's the fifth, and I'll tell you, the fifth step was it for me. That's when I really knew, okay, all right, this is something, this is working. It's working this time. Because look, I was 45 years old when I finally did this for real. And I didn't start drinking at 44. Okay. It took me a long time, a lot of years. I'm telling you, decades. And I come from a long line of drug addicts, alcoholics, sex offenders, and psychic vampires. And I grew up with a family tree that's soaked, and you know what I always say, there's probably a tree wrapped around it. I mean, a car wrapped around the family tree of mine that's soaked. So I've spent my lifetime fighting this disease, fighting this demon. And it wasn't until I was 45 years old and I put all my bullshit aside and I was trying not to die and I was trying not to go back to prison that I actually fearlessly, thoroughly, with no bullshit, got into this book, did what my sponsor said, worked these steps to the best of my ability, and literally, truly saw a change happening in my life. So that's my experience, and I hope that gives some of you some strength and hope and encourages you to don't give up. Don't give up. Okay, so, well, enough about me, huh? If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. So that's what you do. We're going to talk about step 6 and 7 in the next video because they go hand in hand. But we're not done because we've got the 12 and 12, the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. And I like to read out about them. So I'm gonna, because it's my show. Jess says, I've lost more sponsees at the 5th step than at the 4th step. Because with the 5th step, they can't think on their feet fast enough to make up a life story. That's true. Listen, fearless and thorough. Honesty is the first spiritual principle for a reason. Because if you're not honest, it all falls apart. That is the cement of your arch. Honesty, trust, faith, and courage. It takes courage to do the 4th step. It really does. And the 5th step, a lot of people are scared of the 4th step because they're scared of the 5th step. They're scared of the 8th step because they're scared of the 9th step. You know, you're not scared of writing it down. You're scared of telling it to somebody, confessing it. What are they going to think? Oh, I can't tell anybody. They'll never understand, which is why I tell them my stuff. I say, listen, let me tell you about some things I've been through. And it really does make them go, really? Okay, well, shoot. Well, then I guess I can tell you my thing. You know, I have had the benefit, I'm going to call it a benefit and a blessing, to have gone through some really dark shit in my life. And while I wouldn't wish that on anybody, including myself, what that did was give me the ability to help other people and let them know that, listen, that stuff that you think is dark, I've either been right there with you or my stuff is darker. And I'm not like, oh, I'm worse than you are. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you can be comfortable telling me. You can know that I'm going to understand. Hopefully. That's my hope anyway. Jess says, absolutely, and I take notes like a therapist. Exactly. When I'm sitting down with my sponsee or a client or anybody, it's me and you. It's whatever else is going on in the world is irrelevant right now. This time, this is for me and you and your higher power, and it's all about you because I'm trying to save lives here. That's what this is for. It's not about saving your face. It's about saving your ass. All right. So in the 12 and 12, if you have one, we are on page, y'all know I'm not wearing my glasses. We're on page 55. Step 5, admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And now remember, we talked about too, the exact nature of your wrong isn't that you stole $20. It's that you were a thief and a liar. So that's what we figure out in the step 4 when we go through it and we hit that magic column, my part, and we look at, okay, well, what was the character defect behind this? Right? Oh, well, I was lying, cheating, stealing, manipulating. I had unrealistic expectations. I was in the wrong time at the wrong place with the wrong people doing the wrong thing. Something bad happened. We have to look at our part and what, the character defects, the exact nature of our wrong. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're telling, because that's what in step 6 and 7 we're going to ask God to remove from us so that we can move forward in our life without that. Listen, I used to be a hell of a liar. Now I'm honest to a fault, and sometimes if you ask some people, they would probably prefer that I tell some half truths or not be so honest, but I try really hard to be the exact opposite of the horrible asshole that I used to be when I was drinking and drugging. And Chris will tell you, Chris is my actual brother, like my real life brother, y'all. Listen, he's got stories he could tell you. Oh, here comes my hubby. Oh no, he's not coming. He dipped. He dipped down the hallway. I could see him coming though. That's right. Jess is, yes, I don't care about anyone's face. Let me save your ass. That's right. Listen, I'm kind. I'm not soft. I don't know how else to tell you. Okay, so I'm going to have to wear my glasses one of these days, y'all. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires. They all deflate our ego. When it comes to ego deflation, few steps are harder to take than 5. But scarce, you know what? Listen, y'all, I gotta turn this light up. You know why? Because it's so highlighted, I can't read through the highlighter in the dim light. There we go. Let's try that again. Maybe this part I won't sound stupid. Hope springs eternal. Admit it to God, to ourselves, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires. They all deflate our egos. When it comes to ego deflation, few steps are harder to take than 5. But scarcely any step is more necessary to long-time sobriety and peace of mind than this one. AA experience has taught us we cannot live alone with our AA experience has taught us that we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. If we have swept the searchlight of step 4 back and forth over our careers, and it has revealed in stark relief those experiences we'd rather not remember, if we have come to know how wrong thinking and actions have hurt us and others, then the need to quit living by ourselves with those tormenting ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to someone about them. We have to. That's what I say. You pull it up in step 4. You're wallowing in it. You're sitting in it. You got to talk about it. You got to get rid of it. Otherwise, you don't walk away from it. Jess says, my whole family's from New York. We don't have a soft bone in everybody. And Chris says, us true New Yorkers are a special breed. Do you know, my brother, my husband, his mother, all from New York. All from New York. I'm from Florida. I'm older than Chris by a bit. We don't share the same parents, but he's my brother. It's a long, complicated story. I'm not telling it right now because you're not my sponsors. See how I did that? Anyway. So intense, though, is our fear and reluctance to do this that many AAs at first try to bypass step 5. We search for an easier way, which usually consists of the general and fairly painless admission that when drinking, we were sometimes bad actors. Then, for good measure, we add dramatic descriptions of that part of our drinking behavior, which our friends probably knew about anyhow. We're not telling you something you didn't already know. But of the things which really bother and burn us, we say nothing. Certain distressing or humiliating memories, we tell ourselves, ought not to be shared with anyone. You're going to die with the lie. I'm going to die when nobody needs to know. Nobody's going to understand. I'm going to get judged. Blah, 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 blah. These will remain our secret. Not a soul must ever know. We hope they'll go to the grave with us. Yet, if AA's experience means anything at all, this is not only unwise, but is actually a perilous resolve. Few muddled attitudes have caused as much trouble than holding back on step 5. Some people are unable to stay sober at all. Others will relapse periodically until they really clean house. Even AA old timers, sober for years, often pay dearly for skipping this step. They will tell how they tried to carry the load alone, how much they suffered in irritability, anxiety, remorse, and depression, and how, unconsciously seeking relief, they would sometimes accuse even the best friend of the very character defects they themselves were trying to conceal. They always discovered that relief never came from confessing the sins of other people. Everybody has to confess his own. Nobody can do this step for you. Nobody can heal for you. Nobody can have your spiritual experience for you. And we do that. And anybody that's taken any kind of therapy or psychology or just lived more than a day on this planet, we project. We project. Nobody's got more locks than a thief, because a thief just believes that everybody is out in the world thinking about stealing other people's stuff because that's how they think. People that steady are manipulating other people live in fear of being manipulated. Always think somebody's up to something. There's always an ulterior motive. Liars think everybody's lying. It's just how it is. That is the human condition, y'all. Aw, Chris says Jenna's the sister I always wanted, not the one God gave me. Aw, he did give me to you though, Chris. I was once upon a time married to Chris's older stepbrother. So that's how he's my little brother. I'm no longer married to that. He was my starter husband. Now I'm married to Cliff. So, anyway, so I guess it wasn't a real long story, Chris. See, I can make it short, I guess. Okay, here we go. This practice of admitting one's defects to another person is, of course, very ancient. It has been validated in every century, and it characterizes the lives of all spiritually centered and truly religious people. But today, religion is by no means the sole advocate of this saving principle. Psychiatrists and psychologists point out the deep need every human being has for practical insight and knowledge of his own personality flaws and for a discussion of them with an understanding and trustworthy person. So far as alcoholics are concerned, AA would go even further. Most of us would declare that without a fearless admission of our defects to another human being, we could not stay sober. And it seems plain that the grace of God will not enter to expel our destructive obsessions until we are willing to try this. What are we likely to receive from step 5? For one thing, we shall get rid of that terrible sense of isolation we've always had. When you talk to a sponsor and you tell it, and they look at you not with judgment, but with understanding and compassion and go, oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, let me tell you about mine. You realize that you are not alone. You are no more unique and special than anybody else. And that whatever you have gone through, so have other people. And other people might have got through it and know something you don't. It's possible. I learn something new every day, 2 or 3 things if I'm lucky. Jess says, I'm about to go back to school at 50 to be a drug and alcohol counselor. I'm a little nervous to do it at 50. Girl, it's never too late. And let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. At 50, girl, so many people have done great things after 50. Written books, written plays, la la la. Look at me. I'm 52. I'm doing this, right? And I will tell you from my own personal experience and from experience working with people in treatment, when we get some young, God bless them, some young therapist straight out of college, doesn't have a lot of life experience, has a lot of good book learning, the clients are not as open to that person, are not as they're very skeptical. They're very skeptical when they sit down with somebody that's got a little long in the tooth, and especially somebody that's in recovery. The results are so much better. And I'll tell you, because like with me, the rehabs that made any difference to me were the ones where the people that were there to help me were in recovery. Because I would sit down with people, therapists, whatever, that were not themselves in recovery. And it wasn't that I didn't believe what they were saying. Like, I believe you know what you're talking about. I believe that you did well in college. I believe that you read these books and that you have theories and all that. It's not that I don't believe you know what you're talking about. I'm not comfortable believing that you're going to understand what I'm talking about. If you've never been trapped in the blinds, you've never been carpet surfing, you've never been hiding under the covers with no emotion left but fear, I don't know that I really am going to open up everything to you because I don't feel safe. So I say, go for it, girl. I say at 50, go for it. Um, Shroom says, never too late to go back to school. Um, and you've made it this far. True story. True story. God has showed up for you every day so far, girl. Look at you sitting right here. That's how I could tell. And Shroom could tell too. He's pretty smart. He's a pretty smart guy. So I kept him around when I got rid of his brother. Okay, all right. Da, 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 da. I make it look real easy once I edit the video. I promise, Jess. I should get my glasses. Okay, almost without exception, alcoholics are tortured by loneliness. Even before our drinking got bad and people began to cut us off, nearly all of us suffered the feeling that we didn't quite belong. Either we were shy and dared not draw near others, or we were apt to be so noisy, good fellows craving attention and companionship, but never getting it, at least to our way of thinking. There was always that mysterious barrier we could neither surmount nor understand. It was as if we were actors on a stage, suddenly realizing that we did not know a single line of our parts. That's one reason we loved alcohol too well. It did let us act extemporaneously. But even Bacchus boomeranged on us. We were finally struck down and left in terrified loneliness. Bacchus is a demon. Y'all starve the demon? That's the demon. And it turns its back on you. Guess what? Alcohol is not the problem. It is the wrong solution. Too many of us, we didn't have any friends till we started drinking and using. We weren't comfortable talking to people till we were drinking and using. And we suffer from look at me, but don't see me. I need to be the center of attention. I have no self-esteem, so my ego is out the roof. I need everybody to look at me. I need attention. I need to feel like I'm not all alone and isolated and a tiny little somebody. But I need you to see what I'm presenting to you. I need you to see my representative, because the real me, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't like me. How many of y'all that is your experience? Because that's my experience. I'm going to look at it up here. Monoram 51015 says, I went back to college at 58, clean and sober since 5/10/2015, getting out of skilled nursing and studying 155%, totally different career path. God is still in the business of miracle making. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. What y'all don't know is that I had a brain aneurysm back in 2011. And sometimes when I look at something, it takes my eyes a second to focus. My eyes are fine. It's brain damage. When I tell you I'm a brain damaged drug addict, I'm not kidding. Okay. Uh, when we reached AA and for the first time in our lives stood among people who seemed to understand, the sense of belonging was tremendously exciting. We thought the isolation problem had been solved. But we soon discovered that while we weren't alone anymore in a social sense, we still suffered many of the old pangs of anxious apartness. Until we had talked with complete candor of our conflicts and had listened to someone else do the same thing, we still didn't belong. Step 5 was the answer. It was the beginning of true kinship with man and God. This vital step was also the means by which we began to get the feeling that we could be forgiven no matter what we had thought or done. Once in a while, often it was while working on this step with our sponsors or spiritual advisors that we first felt truly able to forgive others, no matter how deeply we felt they had wronged us. Our moral inventory had persuaded us that all round forgiveness was desirable, but it was only when we resolutely tackled step 5 that we inwardly knew we'd be able to receive forgiveness and give it too. Another great dividend we may expect from confiding our defects to another human being is humility, a word often misunderstood. To those who have made progress in AA, it amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. Therefore, our first practical move toward humility must consist of recognizing our deficiencies. Wow, I really halted. So I'm going to read that sentence again. Therefore, our first practical move toward humility must consist of recognizing our deficiencies. No defect can be corrected until we clearly see what it is. You cannot fix what you don't acknowledge. Hold on one second. Honey, can you please? He's really loud. He's a big guy. Voice booms. If y'all can't, let me know if y'all can hear it in the background. Because if you can't hear it, I'm not going to bother to tell him to be quiet. Um, that's the thing with the humility. You know, a lot of people confuse humility with humiliation, and that is just simply not true. Humility means being right sized. You are not the greatest thing walking. You are also not the worst person that ever lived, right? Somewhere in the middle of that is who we all are, you know. And I've said it before, if you ask some people, they will tell you I'm awesome. You ask somebody else, they'll tell you I'm a raging harpy bitch. And they're both right. Both right, depending on their experience with me, right? Most people today will tell you that I'm great. I really do try to live by spiritual principles and keep myself right sized. I've been known to road rage, but I no longer drag anybody out of their car. So, you know, progress, not perfection. But it is no good to consider yourself, to be arrogant and think that there's nothing wrong with you, because that's ridiculous. There's something wrong with everybody. We're human beings. It's also very, very egotistical and selfish and self-centered and self-seeking to spend all your time in woe is me, I'm so bad, I'm so awful, I'm hopeless, because that still is you focusing on you. It's still all about you. And a lot of times we do that, and it's actually a manipulation, because we feel like, okay, well, if I'm really hard on myself, that will stop other people from being hard on me. And it actually puts other people in a position to go, oh, no, 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 it's not that bad. Oh, no, no, I'm not that mad. Oh, no, no, no. And you take away from those people their right and their ability to have an honest conversation about how they're feeling about whatever it is that their experience with you is, because you're so hard on yourself that they feel like they can't say anything to you. So that in and of itself is a selfish manipulation. um Chris says Jenna has always lived by spiritual principles. She's probably half the reason I'm as open minded as I am. She may not realize it, but she's always been an amazing teacher. Thank you, Chris, for saying that. I try. I try. I was, yeah. I mean, I wasn't an asshole every minute of my life, you know, because I'm a human being. I got good parts of me, I got bad parts of me. And like, it just depends on who you ask. God is truly using college to teach me humility. I sit in class with 18-year-old brilliant minds, and I know I'm in school to learn how to learn. College is an experience. I need to become humble. That's very well said. I went back to school after 30 years. 30 years. I was in my late 40s, and I did go back to school. Hi, Eddie.
Hi.
Yeah, you're loud. Chris says hi.
Hi, everybody, and I'm sorry.
Okay. He's um I went back to school. 30 years I had been out of school. And I went back and I got a health administration degree, just to do office work at the center that I work at. Because I already had my recovery coach certification. I have a violent criminal background. So here in Florida, I can't get a therapist license. Not going to happen. So I'm not going to bother to try to get a 4-year degree for something that I'm just not, it's going to be years down the road before I can pass that DCF level 2 background check. Blah, blah, blah. So I use my powers for good instead of evil, but I use them in this way. I have this channel. I hang out with you guys. I work with my clients. I sponsor people. I try to carry the message of recovery in everything that I do. And I do try to live by spiritual principles. But again, Chris isn't telling you the part where I was drunk and high and a psycho hose beast when, when he was growing up. But I was, I believe, a stable person in his life, as he's got his own trauma, drama, and chaos that he was dealing with. But I'm not here to tell his story. So I'm going to hit this vape and I'm going to go back to reading. Chris is one of my biggest fans. And I'm one of his biggest fans. Don't get it twisted. He's awesome. No defects can be corrected until we clearly see what it is. But we shall have to do more than see. The objective look at ourselves we achieved in step 4 was, after all, only a look. All of us saw, for example, that we lacked honesty and tolerance, that we were beset at times by attacks of self-pity or delusions of perceived grandeur. But while this was a humiliating experience, it didn't necessarily mean that we had yet acquired much actual humility. Though now recognized, our defects were still there. Something had to be done about them. And we soon found that we could not wish or will them away by ourselves. More realization and therefore more honesty about ourselves are the great gains we make under the influence of step 5. As we took inventory, we began to suspect how much trouble self delusion had been causing us. This had brought a disturbing reflection. In all our lives, we had more or less fooled ourselves. How could we now be so sure that we weren't still self deceived? How could we be certain that we had made a true catalog of our defects and had really admitted them even to ourselves? Because we were still bothered by fear, self pity, and hurt feelings, it was probable we couldn't appraise ourselves fairly at all. Too much guilt and remorse might cause us to dramatize and exaggerate our shortcomings, or anger and hurt pride might be the smokescreen under which we were hiding some of our defects while we blamed others for them. Possibly, too, we were still handicapped by many liabilities, great and small, we never knew we had. Hence, it was more evident that a solitary y'all. Jess says, hey, I got it going. These two are done, and I'm the driver. Give me a shout later if you want, Jenna. I know it's late for you there. Thank you, Jess. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you so much. I know it's already 8. It's already been an hour. Go, go, go. Take care of your girls. Besides, this will be on a replay. You can watch it later. And I'm going to cut it and edit it. It's going to be even better. Hence, it was most evident that a solitary self appraisal and the admission of our defects based upon that alone wouldn't be nearly enough. We'd have to have outside help if we were surely to know and admit the truth about ourselves. The help of God and another human being. Only by discussing ourselves, holding back nothing, only by being willing to take advice and accept direction, could we set foot on the road to straight thinking, solid honesty, and genuine humility. Yet many of us still hung back. We said, why can't God, as we understand him, tell us where we were astray? If the Creator gave us our lives in the first place, then he must know in every detail where we have since gone wrong. Why doesn't he make our admissions to him directly? Why don't we make our admissions to him directly? Why do we need to bring anyone else into this? These are all excellent questions. And all questions I myself asked. I said to my sponsor, why do I need to even pray? Why do I need to even pray? God knows what's up. God knows what's up. Why do I have to tell him anything? At this stage, the difficulties of trying to deal rightly with God by ourselves are twofold. Though we may at first be startled to realize that God knows all about us, we are apt to get used to that quite quickly. Somehow, being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. Until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. When we are honest with another person, it confirms that we have been honest with ourselves and with God, and that we're not leaving nothing out. Because we can tell our sponsor all day long, oh yeah, I prayed about that, I talked to God about that, doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it true. And that voiced confession, that voiced conversation with God, that out loud, and depending on what your religious beliefs are, depending on what your higher power is, I think is also dependent on what that prayer life looks like, what that confession to your higher power, what that, telling it, admitting it looks like. Let's see. Oh, my husband jumped in under my name. Jennifer Piotrowski, that's my husband, Cliff. He says, hey, honey, I'm cooking dinner and just wanted to say I'm so happy people showed up for your live. God bless everyone. Oh, he's so sweet. He's so sweet. Usually he's at work on a Monday night and he jumps in the chat and him and Chris talk to each other. But he was off tonight, so he went to the gym and now he's cooking dinner like a good man should. Okay. The second difficulty is this. What comes to us alone may be garbled by our own rationalization and wishful thinking. We can talk ourselves into or out of anything. At any given moment in time, when somebody is doing something, they are rationalizing and justifying in their mind why that's the right thing to do in that moment. Why I didn't have any other choice. This is what I had to do. And without another person as a sounding board, you will continue to believe your own bullshit. I don't know a nicer way to say that. The benefit of talking to another person is that we can get his direct comment and counsel on our situation. And there can be no doubt in our minds what that advice is. Going it alone in spiritual matters is dangerous. How many times have we heard well intentioned people claim the guidance of God when it was all too plain that they were sorely mistaken? Lacking both practice and humility, they had deluded themselves and were able to justify the most nonsense on the ground that this was what God had told them. It is worth noting that people of very high spiritual development almost always insist on checking with friends or spiritual advisors the guidance they feel they have received from God. Surely then, a novice ought not lay himself open to the chance of making foolish, perhaps tragic blunders in this fashion. While the comment or advice of others may be by no means infallible, it is likely to be far more specific than any direct guidance we may receive while we are still so inexperienced in establishing contact with a power greater than ourselves. I believe that God speaks to me through other people. I don't have like a red phone that's a direct line to God. He just goes, "This is what I want you to do." I don't have a burning bush. I have to figure it out, right? So, this is what I know. I know that God would not want me to do anything that goes against spiritual principles. And what spiritual principles have we learned and practiced thus far through the Alcoholics Anonymous program? The first is honesty. The second is faith. The second is trust. The third is faith. The fourth is courage. All those put together, combined, create integrity. And what is integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, even when nobody's looking, for no other reason than because it's the right thing to do. That's integrity. So if you are living your life thus far by those spiritual principles, if anything comes up that's going to make you go against those spiritual principles, you're going to be dishonest. You're going to be unfaithful. You're going to be untrustworthy, untrustable, untrusting, and you're going to be scared and fearful. And you're going to not do the right things as the right thing to do. You're going to only be, virtue signaling and I'm doing the right thing because people are looking. That's not what God wants for you. Whatever your God is, whatever your higher power is, I promise you, that's not what they want for you. I get a little riled up. Our next problem will be to discover the person in whom we are to confide. Here we ought to take much care, remembering that prudence is a virtue which carries a high rating. Perhaps we shall need to share with this person facts about ourselves which no other ought to know. We shall want to speak with someone who is experienced, who not only has stayed dry, but has been able to surmount other serious difficulties perhaps like our own. This person may turn out to be one's sponsor, but not necessarily so. If you have developed a high confidence in him and his temperament and problems are close to your own, then such a choice will be good. Besides, your sponsor already has the advantage of knowing something about your case. That's what I said. By the time I got to my fifth step, my sponsor already knew everything anyway. And I've said it before, even in this right here in this live, in this video, I've said it. If you can't trust your sponsor with your fifth step, find a new sponsor. For real. Because why are you taking advice from somebody that you can't trust with your fifth step? Why are you letting somebody that you don't trust with your stuff help you figure out how to work your life, how to solve your problems without drugs and alcohol? Ask yourself that. You don't got to tell me. You know. And if you don't know, think about it, figure it out, go find somebody else that is a good friend that you can talk to about that. It is an honor to sponsor. It's a privilege. It is okay if you have a sponsor and for whatever reason, you decide that that's not working for you, that's not clicking for you, you're not getting what you need, they don't have what you want, it is okay to find a new sponsor. A sponsorship is not a marriage. You're not in it till death do you part. You know, you work with who you work with. And sometimes you work with a sponsor for a good couple of years and they're great and they're awesome, but you feel like you've just got all you can from them as far as the steps go, and you want to go work your steps with somebody else. So you want to see how somebody else does it. You know, my sponsor and I, my first real sponsor, never mind all the sponsors that, you know, so people always say, does your sponsor know that they're your sponsor? You know, I got a sponsor that I never called. I never cracked the book. I never worked step one, right? I'm not talking about those. You know, my actual real first sponsor with the halo and the angel wings. She doesn't see herself that way, but I certainly did. We split ways after a time because she was very into working the steps, right? That was her big thing. She wanted to work the steps every year, start back over. I have a different, my focus is more on the spiritual principles. And I personally think that if you fearlessly and thoroughly work your steps and that you are living in 10, 11, and 12, that it's not necessary to go back and formally work the steps 1 through 8 because you are in your daily life doing all the things that the steps taught you how to do. So I am far more concerned about practicing these principles in all my affairs and carrying the message of recovery. So she's great and I love her and she completely saved my life. But we kind of philosophically, she was this way and I was, you know, being pulled more this way. And that's fine. I found another sponsor who, like me, was more concerned with the spiritual principles and less with the actual working of the steps. Not that you don't work the steps. That's not what I'm saying. Once you have worked the steps, you know, then you're living spiritual principles. You're doing that in all your affairs. You're carrying the message of recovery. They're, you know, okay, why it's just a different philosophical, ideological way of living and working the program. Neither one's wrong. Her way was not wrong. It just wasn't quite my way. So, you know, but that's okay. When I told her, listen, I found this other lady and she and I think are a little more aligned. My sponsor, who knows that it's an honor and a privilege to sponsor her, was not butthurt because she had so much self-esteem. Her ego was like this, and she loved on me and wished me well, and that freed her up to go help another newcomer that needed her more than I did in that moment in time. Right? So, yay, everybody wins. Nobody's hurt. We're not divorced. We're not beefing. She's great. I love her. She's still part of my sober network. I still reference her and think about her. And half the time when I say the words my sponsor, she's the one I'm thinking of. So no harm, no foul. And that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Now you can fire your sponsor too. Your sponsor might end up, you know, they might suck and you decide this is not what I want. I want no part of you and go find another sponsor. It's okay. This is your recovery. And what a sponsor's trying to do is get you through the steps, put your hand in the hand of God's. And the most important thing to a sponsor is that you recover. So whatever that looks like. And if I had a sponsee tell me they didn't want me to sponsor them for whatever reason, okay, great. Well, let's find you another sponsor and keep it pushing and keep you learning and keep you growing, because that's what it's about. Chris says, I would imagine by the time you get to step 5, you're okay with being honest with yourself, but don't set a particular sponsor aside because they might seem harsh. Oh, that's true. Oh, listen, my sponsees know off the rip what they're getting when they get me. I'm not kind. I mean, I am kind, but I'm not soft. And I'm going to tell it like I see it. I'm going to try to be nice, but I'm far more concerned with being honest. Sometimes you don't want to hear what I have to say, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it, and hopefully you will take it, think about it. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not right all the time, but take what I have to say, use me as a sounding board, and all I do is give suggestions. I don't tell my sponsees, well, you have to do this, you have to do that, all. We talk through things. We go through things. This is what this means. This is how it works in my life. Let me help you figure out where your childhood trauma is manifesting in your adult life and how these things connect to those things. And that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing is taking the person and allowing them the space to figure it out for themselves. I can't tell you what your character defects are. I can help you. I mean, I can. Really, what am I saying? I can tell you what your character defects are, but only if I get to know ya and I work the other steps with ya and we go through them, and then I can go, oh, well, that's what that is. Oh, that in that instance, oh yeah, well, you were thieving and lying and manipulating. That's what that was. I can do that. But I do it kind of like that. Like, oh, you were manipulating. Oh, you were being an asshole. Okay, I get it. But it's okay. It's okay that you were being an asshole. I was an asshole. I'm still an asshole. You know, um, I don't judge them. I don't make them feel bad that they were an asshole. Okay, I just want you to recognize that you were an asshole. Or a thief, or a liar, or you were manipulating, or you had unrealistic expectations, or you were in the wrong place at the wrong time doing the wrong thing and something bad happened. And that's what I'm there for. Sponsors are not the end all be all. We don't have, like my sponsor told me, she didn't have a halo and wings. I was just my own, how I saw her. But she was very human and very fallible. And we did not always agree on everything. I didn't always think she was right. She didn't always think I was right. That's okay. We still loved each other, and it was a wonderful relationship. Anyway, I don't know. I digress. I get to rambling, y'all. I do want to we've already been doing this for almost an hour and a half. I know you have other things to do with your life. And I appreciate everybody that's come in and watched and joined into the chat. And Chris is helping me out a lot. But I'm going to get through this as quick as I can for you. Um, Perhaps, though, your relation to him is such that we're talking about the person that you picked, your sponsor, whoever you pick to be your person. Perhaps, though, your relation to him is such that you would care to reveal only a part of your story. If this is the situation, by all means do so, for you ought to make a beginning as soon as you can. It may turn out, however, that you'll choose someone else for the more difficult and deeper revelations. This individual may be entirely outside of AA. For example, your clergyman or your doctor. For some of us, a complete stranger may for some of us, a complete stranger may prove the best bet. The real test of the situation are your own willingness to confide in your full confidence in the one with whom you share your first accurate self survey. Even when you've found the person, it frequently takes great resolutions to approach him or her. No one ought to say the AA program requires no willpower. Here is one place you may require all you've got. Happily, though, the chances are that you will be in for a very pleasant surprise. When your mission is carefully explained and it is seen by the recipient of your confidence how helpful he can really be, the conversation will start easily and will soon become eager. Before long, your listener may well tell a story or two about himself, which will place you even more at ease. Provided you hold back nothing, your sense of relief will mount from minute to minute. The dammed up emotions of years break out of their confinement and miraculously vanish as soon as they are exposed. As the pain subsides, a healing tranquility takes its place. And when humility and serenity are so combined, something else of great. Sorry, guys. And when humility and serenity are so combined, something else of great moment is apt to occur. Many in AA, once agnostic or atheist, tells us that it was during this stage of step 5 that he first actually felt the presence of God. And even those who had faith already often become conscious of God as they never were before. This feeling of being at one with God and man, this emerging from isolation through the open and honest sharing of our terrible burden of guilt, brings us to a resting place where we may prepare ourselves for the following steps toward a full and meaningful sobriety. And the next is step 6. Next Monday at 7, we'll be talking about that. I will leave this live up as a replay until I get the book study part of it actually edited. And like I said, I have a playlist that is the AA book study, where I go through the entirety of the AA Big Book. And y'all might notice mine looks different than a lot of the ones you see because mine is the old lady big print edition. The one I was working with that was all highlighted and penciled, my husband destroyed in one of his many relapses that we call Lost in a Fire. But he replaced it with this really cool big book, which is why it's so much easier for me to read this to you than it is to read this little tiny print thing without my glasses because I'm old and I guess vain. I don't want to wear my glasses. So, what can I tell you about step 5 that I already haven't? It is where I really started to feel the presence of my higher power and believe that this could work for me. And I'll never forget. Sitting in my house, sitting with my big book, reading through the first 4 steps and really asking myself, did I do the first step 100%, which is the only step you have to do 100%. You have to admit that you're powerless over your addiction and your life is unmanageable because of it. That has to be 100%. Everything else, listen, to the best of your ability, And when I sat down and I did that, and I was all by myself, and I was in my house, and I was reading my book, and I was praying about it, and I was thinking about it, I cannot exactly put into words the feeling that I experienced, but when I tell you I felt the hand of God, that's what it was. Other people might have different experiences. That's my experience. And I wish that for everybody. I wish everybody could feel that. I really do. Does anybody have any questions? Anything else that they would like to say? Anything they would like me to talk about? I'm going to hit my vape because I know this is like a delay. And then this is the kind of stuff you don't see in the edited version. Thank you, Chris. I see that you said great read tonight. You know what? I'm going to scroll back through right quick and see if I missed any comments. That was so awesome. Jess showing up. She is 7621 Jess. She is going to be doing an interview coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm really excited about that. I'm not going to give any of it away. We've had some really good conversation, talking about her story and what's up, Um, clean since December 12th, 2020. My husband's date is December 14th. My birthday is December 16th. Da, 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 da. All right, well, nobody else is really answering, so let me say this. Um, Thanks for coming. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it to somebody that needs it, tell all your friends if you still have any. And please, you can go to starvethedemon.com, buy a t-shirt, buy a hat, buy me a coffee. There's resources on there. There's links to interviews you can watch on YouTube, listen on Spotify. And, love everybody. Okay, let God sort them out. And keep coming back, because I am going to keep coming back. And I'm surprised the dogs are not up here. Usually the dogs are up here, y'all. If you watch my other videos, they're just full of the dogs up there. I am still figuring out my studio setup. I'm still figuring out my lighting. I'm still figuring out my makeup. So please, I so appreciate you guys bearing with me while I go through this craziness. Chris says, really looking forward to your interviews. Just don't forget, some of us like the long form podcasts. Don't cut them down too short. I love you, Jenna. I love you too, Chris. Listen, I might just send you the unedited version just for you and put the edited, nice, polished version on YouTube. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks you guys for coming. I love you all. Have a great day. And I'll see you next week at 7. We talk about steps 6 and 7, Alcoholics Anonymous. Remember that whether or not you're working AA, the 12 steps and the spiritual principles are the same. Whether you're doing AA, NA, any program that ends in A, the steps and the principles are the same. So if you're past step 5 and you want to learn about steps 6 through 12, please, you could check out my Narcotics Anonymous videos. Steps are the same, spiritual principles are the same. Get in there, check it out, and leave me comments. Let me know what you think. I really do read them all. Bye, guys. Mwah.